Next up, please welcome our next TEDx speaker, Mariam with her topic, Unmasking Bias, Exposing Barriers to Opportunity.
Does this board look familiar to you in any way? How many of you have played Monopoly before? Can I see a show of hands? That's a 1, 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, a 6, a 7, and 8. Oh my God, that is a lot of people. Now, if you go on Google and search up who you should thank for the countless hours of fun and usually a tiny bit of family drama, most websites would tell you that a man by the name of Charles Darrow is who you should thank for this invention. But hold up, wait a second. Take a step back. What if I told you that Darrow is actually nothing but a thought snatcher? Meet Elizabeth Lizzie Maggie. See, Lizzie was a very opinionated woman in 20th century America. And one thing she loved critiquing was the capitalist system, also known as the heart of the American society. And from there, Monopoly, or rather known as the landlord's game at the time, was born and patented, only to be scrapped back then and credited years later to Darrow, who flourished under a title that was never meant to be his, but rather one of a hard-working, smart woman, limited because of prejudice tendencies. This isn't an isolated incident. When we dismiss people and their ideas, we often find that we lose out on diverse perspectives. We find that people who work hard can drive better outcomes and drive more creative ideas. Yet, we see that everywhere around us, right, left, up, down, front, and center, there's always going to be a person with a backwards biased way of thinking that stands in the way of your success, like a concrete wall that refuses to budge. Now, Lizzie wasn't the first. She's never, ever, ever, ever going to be the last. And that drives us to look into where exactly does this stem from? See, bias, as I mentioned, is like a concrete wall. When you move to it, it shapes your perceptions and your ideas, which can often cause us to overlook people or to limit their ideas. And from there, we limit their opportunities as well, based off of gender, race, socioeconomic status, or maybe even your own personal dislike of somebody. And when we do this, we put a stop to ideas. We never actually move forward. We never drive for innovation. And that causes an imbalance in society. So, while Lizzie was just one case, this isn't actually an isolated incident. This carries out everywhere. Lizzie lost her spot because she couldn't fill what was expected of her at the time, while Darrow actually did. He fit into the mold. So, how exactly can we look into this? What can we do to move this forward? I'll give you my foolproof plan. If you like it, please carry on with it. And if you don't like it, you're free to choose your own as long as we solve the issue. Firstly, I'll tell you 3 words. Find inner clarity. So, finding inner clarity means question your own biases, question your assumptions. If you question those, you're able to derive what is wrong, where is the root of the problem. Now, a sour old woman had once tried to mock me and tell me that I should sit down and do my self-reflection after I'd given her a certain reaction she didn't like. And while I was actually upset about it at the time, I actually find out now that I'm very thankful for her. Because after all, I found out that it is just with starting with ourselves that we can actually push forward, that we can move into what we need to do, into uplifting our communities. Next, I'll tell you to question the roles of privileges in how our perception works. People in positions of power often have the loudest voices, and by doing so, they can perpetuate a glass ceiling. And that can drown out others and knock them down from certain opportunities that they can have. So it creates an imbalance where certain ideas are uplifted while others are marginalized. And that creates an imbalance in society as well, because somebody gets a privilege while the other doesn't. And from there, we need to evaluate who gets a seat at the table and why. Are we actually pushing for inclusive practices, or are we reinforcing pre-existing hierarchies that oppress people and their ideas and their creativity? Then I'll tell you to find your voice, to be an advocate for fighters and against perpetrators. So be an ally to those who may be marginalized and a fighter against those who are narrow-minded and uncertain and unaccepting of everybody around them. I'll also tell you to take a page out of Lizzie's book. Now, Lizzie was just one woman, limited by systemic barriers. Imagine everybody else around her. There's always news of women who are marginalized, right, left, groups that are set aside. They're not given the chances to flourish as they want to be. And we see this carry forward in arts, business, technology, yet nobody's doing anything. Why don't we? Why are we actually not moving forward? And I'll tell you why. Because nobody is actually brave enough to question their own beliefs. And this is why we're here. That's why we're all here. We have to figure out how to put ourselves forward, how to knock down the walls of bias, and how to pave a way for those who may be marginalized. So in doing so, we honor Lizzie's legacy. We honor her hard work and her recognition that may have fallen away. So the next time you pick up this board and you decide, hey, I want to play Monopoly, think of Lizzie. And think of how behind every innovation, every idea, every venture that may have happened, there's a story of innovation, there's a story of resilience, there's also a story of struggle. And think about how you can be a voice to uplift your community, how you can make sure that history doesn't repeat itself. From there, I promise you, we'll be able to actually pave a way into an idea that may seem aspirational, but is actually beyond achievable. Thank you.